The New York Knicks finally have an Eastern Conference final opponent, and it's the Cleveland Cavaliers. A little bit of a rematch from 2023 when the Knicks took them down in 5 games. Hoping to do the same once again. Uh, Start us off with a little preview.
Yeah, so obviously the Knicks coming off one of the most dominant series wins in NBA history, with the sweep of their hated rival, Philadelphia 76ers. By far the most satisfying playoff series I've witnessed in my lifetime in any sport, for me at least. And Cleveland coming off a very impressive Game 7 win over the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, the Detroit Pistons. These two teams in the preseason were considered to be the top dogs in the East, the two most talented teams. And while they didn't finish as the top two seeds, either one of them, here we are in the Eastern Conference Finals and should be a great series.
Yeah, I don't see why not. There's star power on both sides. Cleveland has four all-stars. They have some really good defenders, Mobley and Allen, even Strus and Dean Wade. This is a really talented basketball team. So are the Knicks, obviously, as they showed against Philly and Atlanta. Winning the last 7 games pretty handedly, all of them. Um, so yeah, both teams are really. Listen, there's a reason they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. They're both really good basketball teams, and I think really either one could win. I think a lot of people are maybe not taking the Cavs as seriously as they should. Like I still think we'll win in 5 or 6 games,
Hmm.
but it's not going to be anything like Philly. It's not going to be anything even like some of those Atlanta games. I don't think you're going to see a lot of blowouts from either side. I think these are going to be hard-nosed games, maybe even some defensive games. Both teams are fairly good defensively, so we'll see. But I think it'll be a close series in terms of score, but maybe it won't show on the series score line. As
Right, yeah.
to win in
You know,
five.
I actually thought that the general media wasn't taking the Knicks seriously, really mostly due to recency bias, honestly. I don't think
Right.
comments that, the media like hates the Knicks more than the other teams. Are that true? But it's just that the Knicks haven't played a game in 9 days. It'll be
Yeah.
when the game starts tomorrow. And obviously, in that time, we saw lots of the Cavs. I mean, the game three they were only 3 games in by the time the Knicks had their series wrapped up. So we've seen 4 games of the Cavs. We've seen how they can counter, how they can respond, how they can get exposed. So we've seen a lot more of the Cavs recently than the Knicks, and I think, of arguably, maybe not even arguably, definitely probably the best game they've played this entire season as their most recent game has people a lot higher on the Cavs than I really think they should be. And obviously, I'm not trying to be biased, but we have watched 82 regular season Knicks games and 10
Yeah.
playoff games. So, I think the bias just comes from
Watch
we
so
watch the
much.
Knicks more than any other team, being fans of the team, rather than we hate every other team. But, I really do think the Knicks are a better team than the Cavs. I think they're more talented. I think, they have more shooters. They should be able to match up with the size. I do think they have the best player in the series. Jalen Brunson is a better player than Donovan Mitchell, 100%. Again, no disrespect to Donovan Mitchell, great player, but Jalen Brunson is the best guard in the Eastern Conference.
Mhm.
And it's not like the Pacers where they seem to be dominating and just looked unreal. I think the Knicks have looked the better team in the playoffs too. And I think in this case, it's really just a situation where they should be winning this series. It really shouldn't be a coin flip series. They are the better team in the series, and it's just a matter of can they get it done coming off 9 days rest.
Right. That's what I think is my biggest concern, at least, is like the rest versus rust kind of, argument where,
Right.
oh, great. Well, Anunoby can now play game one, like Shams and Ian Begley said. That's awesome. That's what
Hmm.
9 days of rest is going to get you. It gets you Anunoby back for game one. But then everybody else has just been, obviously they've been practicing, and I'm sure
Hmm.
Mike Brown is prepared for this. He knows what he's doing. Um, but everyone else, they're not, you don't have that game experience, whereas the Cavs just played 2 games ago. Now that could be detrimental to them. That
Yeah.
could be, well, they just played a 7 game series, and before that they played a 7 game series. And, maybe the first couple of games they'll be a little fresher just because they've had more games under their belt. But then
Hmm.
once game 4, 5, 6, maybe if it goes to 7, then you'll see their legs give out maybe, or
Yeah.
like that, where just after a while those 7 game series catch up to you, whereas the team who played 6 and 4 is just fresher, and they're just in a better place mentally and physically. So I wonder if maybe game one we'll see a slow start, and then maybe at halftime they'll pick it up, or maybe even the second quarter. That's kind of, I'm almost expecting like a 10-0 run for Cleveland to kind of start, and then okay, then
Yeah.
settle down, and we'll be okay. Start hitting your shots, start doing what you do. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like you said, the kind of the how that 9 days of rest will affect this team, and if they can bounce back from, well, not bounce back, but if they can kind of harness what they did before that break, I don't see how anybody can beat them. I don't see why, like I said earlier, why it wouldn't be a 5 game series if they can play how they were playing against Philly and Atlanta those last 3 games.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the rest versus rust thing, honestly, I don't think it really matters as much in basketball as it does a sport like baseball, where it's like all timing and rhythm, and that's the whole game. you know,
Right.
we've both played sports in high school and stuff, and I can tell when you have like a long layover for a game, like a really big game, you get more amped up. So I don't see why their intensity would drop. If anything, it should go up. They've just been twiddling their thumbs, waiting to attack the conference finals.
Right.
I can see a world where they're turning the ball over a lot in the first half because of how amped up they are. And then the shooting variant, like I guess their shots could be off due to rust, but
Yeah.
I
I
mean their
think that's what
shooting
most.
variance in the middle of series anyway. Like, they had bad shooting nights in the middle of the Hawks series, in the middle of the Sixers series. Like, it's not like they'd shot 58% from three and hit 25 every game. So that stuff happens in the middle of a series, whether you're rested or not. So I don't really see it being too big of an issue. I also saw a stat: teams with a 6 day or more rest advantage have won 88% of series in NBA history. So the stats back up that it really shouldn't matter.
Mhm.
Again, maybe, they'll have a lot of turnovers and lose game one, but overall, I don't see how it would affect them too much this series. The way they lose this series is by just not playing up to their standards and choking, quite frankly. I think it would be a choke and very disappointing if we are not back on here talking about the Knicks in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Before we get to our official predictions, I just want to add one more thing, because I do want to know your official prediction. But this is obviously a different sport, but I remember in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Rangers had played back-to-back 7 game series, and the Lightning had just swept. I can't remember who it was, but they had just swept their series in the second round, and the Rangers
Mhm.
came in,
Yeah,
and the Rangers took a 2-0 series lead, and they were flying. Lightning looked rusty. They didn't look like they were their best. And then the Lightning won 4 straight, and the Rangers just looked like they didn't have their legs.
there
And
you
that
go.
that that could 100% happen in, obviously,
Yeah, of
obviously basketball and hockey are two different things, but there's
course.
very active sports, are moving constantly. There's not really, that much. Although in hockey you do get a good amount of downtime, but you when you're on the ice, you're constantly moving.
Right, yeah.
Basketball, so, and especially in basketball, if your legs give out, you're not making any shots. You're just not going to make your shots. So I could see that where Cleveland, I mean, that would be a disastrous scenario if Cleveland came into the Garden and took 2 games, right? But I could see that
Yeah,
maybe it's 1-1 after 2 games, and you're like,
right,
they
yeah.
look a little rusty, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden they hit their stride and Cleveland just falls
No, I
apart.
see. I think there's a better chance this ends up kind of looking like the Hawks series more than the Sixers series,
Right.
where
Agree.
they just
100% agree.
start and it's like, a very weird first few games, and then they start playing like the Knicks we know and love. Um, Now, as far as predictions,
Mhm.
I may have shown my cards. The Knicks are going to win this series. I personally think it will be in 5 games. Not because I think the Cavs are a bad team. I think it'll be most of the games will be close. It won't be like the
Right. I
Hawks and
agree.
Sixers series. But I just don't see how this could go more than 6. If we lose, it'll be in 6. I just don't see this getting to a game 7. I think
Mhm.
one team is going to take control and just end it. And I think this is what happens more often the deeper you get into the playoffs, where the series are never as close as you think.
Right.
So because I think the Knicks are going to win, I think it'll be in 5 games. They're going to take both at the Garden. They'll win one of the two in Cleveland, and they will advance to the NBA Finals in Game 5 back at the Garden. And that's my prediction, Knicks in 5.
Yeah, see, I was going back and forth between 5 and 6, and now that you said five, I can't do the same thing as you. That's blind. So I'm gonna say Knicks in 6, and it just sounds better too. As you know, it rhymes. So Knicks in 6. I think, like I said, I think they'll split at the Garden to start. I think it'll be 1-1 going to Cleveland, and I think they'll split that again, and it'll be 2-2 coming back to the Garden. They'll take momentum. They'll win in Game 5. They'll get momentum going into Cleveland. They'll close it out. They'll head to the NBA Finals. Um, and that's what it should, like you said, it would be bitterly disappointing if at this point with how they played against Philadelphia, how they
Hmm.
finished that series against Atlanta, it would be so disappointing for this team not to make the finals. And also, obviously expectations change as the year goes on, but coming into the season, this was the expectation.
Absolutely.
Make the NBA finals. Now that it's within your grasp, you have home
Hmm.
court advantage. You've looked like arguably the best team in basketball. Maybe Oklahoma City is the only one
Right.
that has another
Definitely the best in the East. That's not a
probably the best
question.
in the league. That's not a question. I think Oklahoma City is probably been better, but you could probably have an argument there,
Yeah.
um, especially in terms of point differential and how much we beat up on the Sixers and the Hawks in those last couple games. So you have to win it. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if it's in 4, 5, 6. I don't care what it is. You have to make the NBA Finals. Not just because it was that way from the beginning of the season. That is important to reach your goal from the beginning of the season. But now that it's right in your grasp and you have it, and you don't have to go through Detroit, who got mopped up by all year long. This is
Yeah.
a team in Cleveland that you've kind of owned since Donovan Mitchell got there, and since Jalen
Pretty
Brunson.
much. Yeah.
You've owned this franchise.
They've absolutely had their number since the arrivals of Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell
You
to the
this is
respective
you
teams,
win.
and they really should win. Now, to make that happen, still need a good coaching game plan. Can't
Absolutely.
mess that up because bad coaching can lose you a series, as we did see last year, unfortunately. Again, I
Yes.
love Tom Thibodeau, but that was he just flat out got out coached in that series. Very
And
poorly
listen,
coached series.
and it's not even necessarily an anti Tom Thibodeau thing. It's just Rick Carlisle is going to go down as one of the better coaches.
Yeah, he's an all-time great head coach, and that's like that Pacers team is like you could even argue just one of the most well-coached teams of all time. I mean,
Absolutely.
but yeah, to make this, they got to have a good game plan.
Mhm.
So I don't know the nitty-gritty offensive stuff they're gonna do and all the switches, but for the defensive matchups, just to get this out of the way, I've seen some people thinking that OG Anunoby is gonna start on Evan Mobley. Let me tell you right, there's a 0% chance that that happens. OG Anunoby will guard Donovan Mitchell or James Harden, and Mikal Bridges will be on the other. Quite, I don't really have a preference for which one they go with, but in some shape or form, those two will guard their two star guards.
Mhm.
Cat will guard Evan Mobley, I would think.
Okay.
And I think just because of Jared Allen's subpar rebounding at times and inability to create his inside shot, they could get away with having Josh Hart on him. And then Brunson will go on Max Strus or Dean Wade or whoever
Whoever's
they
starting, yeah.
decide to start
Mhm.
at any given time. I know they have alternated that fifth starter, but I can't see a world where OG Anunoby isn't on one of their two biggest offensive threats. That just
I think
makes
the
absolutely no
only
sense to me.
the only thing I could see is that Josh Hart has played some unbelievable
He
defense thus
has.
far. So I think maybe I don't know if you would try it in game one, but you might try to steal that matchup where Hart is on one of Harden or Mitchell. Probably, I guess probably Harden, just because Harden hasn't really been that great these playoffs.
Yeah.
Like I think Mitchell's just been the better player for Cleveland, but that's the only way I could see that is if they say, okay, well, Josh Hart has been unbelievable. And then you also have Anunoby's coming off that injury. I know, it wasn't really a bad hamstring. They called it more of a tweak,
Yeah.
strain, but maybe that's in their mind a little bit. That's the only way I could see it. But I do agree. I think it will be OG on Mitchell. I think it has to be OG on Mitchell.
Yeah. It needs to be.
Your
And I
best
think you're
defender
right.
needs to be on their best player. It's that
Yeah.
simple.
And I think you're right. And I think because of that, that's part of why I think they are going to trust him on Jared Allen, Josh Hart, because his defense has been so good.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
been great on the guards. He's also more than held his own against bigs when he gets switched onto them. And I
Mhm.
think it gives the Knicks a luxury where they'll be okay with most switches as long as you
Right.
don't end up with Mitchell or Harden on Brunson, because that would
Yeah.
be a disaster. That's
That
three
would not.
points.
Yeah.
Or just a foul, which you also don't want. But
Yeah.
Brunson, I think every now and then can hold his own at times. You don't want that to be a regular thing. So you're other than that, I
Right.
think they'll be okay with most switches. And if Mitchell gets switched on the Hart, you live with that a few
Mhm.
times. Same with Harden. Bridges on Mitchell or Mobley or what. You're probably living with most of these switches, which I think is a luxury. Now, from the Knicks offense, I guess Max Strus slash Dean Wade is gonna be the guy guarding Jalen Brunson
I
primarily.
think a lot of people have been saying Dean Wade.
Yeah, whichever one of those starts, I would think is their best perimeter defender anyway.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I can't imagine you're putting Mitchell or Harden on him. Because
There's no.
besides the fact that they both can't guard him at all, you don't want them getting into foul trouble either if you're
Oh,
Cleveland. And
definitely not.
Brunson is a very good player when it comes to drawing fouls, just like James Harden and Donovan Mitchell. So they're not going to try that. Mobley will be on Cat. That could be a problem. But with the way he's been playing, Cat is the offensive hub. He will be able to draw them out of the paint,
Yeah.
Mobley out of the paint.
Absolutely.
So now they're going to have Allen on Hart, I would think. And I personally think they're going to try to sag off Josh Hart so that they can have some rim protection.
Yeah.
So he's just going to have to hit some threes. I mean, it's that simple.
Listen, he's a
And
good
quite
three-point
frankly,
shooter.
if he doesn't, then you think about starting Miles McBride later down the series if that really becomes an issue because Miles McBride could totally guard Donovan Mitchell, and then you can match up with size wise too.
Yeah, I mean,
And
Hart was a great three-point shooter this season. He doesn't get
yeah,
enough.
and
He shot 42% from three.
yeah,
If he struggles from three, it's a problem. Like maybe they're not gonna treat him like the Knicks treated Dyson Daniels,
no,
but don't sag off him. They know Anunoby can hit threes. They know
hmm
Cat can. They know Brunson can, and then they're afraid of Bridges too, because he
hmm
can also shoot the three, not really as well as Hart percentage wise, but then you're afraid of his mid range game, which seems like
right, yeah,
basically every shot he takes from the mid range goes
yeah,
in. So the only guy that you can really
even think
off
about
on to
leaving, yeah,
the only person you could think about leaving open is Hart. And just like you said, if he doesn't hit those shots, you could think about a switch. I don't think they would. I
yeah,
really don't think they would.
yeah.
You could. You
He
have the luxury of that.
You can, which just goes to show how important the depth has been for the Knicks this year. Hart
Absolutely.
was starting. He did find his stroke in the last few games against the Sixers. Luckily, he really was struggling
It was.
for
Absolutely.
most of the playoffs before those last two games, especially game four. It felt like he didn't miss a three. He hit
Mhm.
quite a few. Really, the key for him is just not hesitating, just catch and shoot. Those seem to
Yeah.
go down. That seems to be where he's at the 40%. It's when he's hesitating and for
Right.
whatever reason. But, you know, I think the Cavs will try that just because if he is hitting threes, they're in trouble. Because if you pull both of their elite rim protectors out of the paint because they have to, as we saw at the Sixers, I mean, any team, again, no disrespect to the Cat, but you're just going to be in trouble if
Yeah.
Knicks get away with that.
Yeah.
And again, the depth and different combinations they could try. Like if they really have trouble with hard on Allen or the size, you could always go double big. You have the best
Not
offensive
Mitchell Robinson.
rebounder in the league on your bench.
Yeah.
I mean, Landry Shamet found his ability again because he was just atrocious in the Hawks series. He's suddenly playing some great defense. You have Jose Alvarado who could just be a pest to
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell.
And
I know
also
the
Jordan.
Cavs like to have Mitchell play the whole second quarter, so I think we will see that matchup a good amount. And there's just so many guys you can point to that you're kind of fine matching up with in
Also,
different
you
situations.
mentioned offensive rebounding. Jordan Clarkson has turned into like another Josh Hart.
Unbelievable. It's unreal. Yeah.
He's getting inside. He's getting offensive rebounds. He's kind of what's funny is it seems like he's lost his 3-point shot, but then
Yeah.
he's getting us more possessions though with the offensive
Right.
rebound. So it doesn't
That's the
really
thing. He's
matter.
not even like taking as many threes. Like he's
That's
trying
another
to get
yeah.
inside only. Like he's just getting to the rim, which again, listen, the most high percentage shot in the league is a layup, so I'm not complaining about that. And
Yep,
he is efficient at the rim. But
absolutely.
yeah, this is a thing. The Knicks' depth is better this year than last year, and this is why we fired Tom Thibodeau for Mike Brown to be able to make these kinds of adjustments where needed. Because of course, just like Tibbs last year, Mike Brown is going to start with, the Brunson, Bridges, Hart, OG, and Cat starting five. McBride and Robinson will be the guys off the bench
Hmm.
getting the most minutes, but you have other options
Yeah.
as far as guys you could put out defensively, guys you can put out offensively, if the double big become an issue. Lots of different things you can do. And I think in general, the Knicks just have more options than the Cavs of what they can do with their bench. A lot more different looks you can throw at them. And that's why I think they will win this series because it'll just be, I think it will overwhelm the Cavs. Even though the Cavs are a very good team, they're very talented, coming off a very impressive win. The Knicks have still looked much better than them throughout the whole playoffs. I think they are a better team. I think they will show it. They're going to go to the NBA Finals.
I hope so. All right, that's it for the Big Apple Blabbermouths. Tune in next time. We'll be at game one tomorrow night.
Yes.
So tune in to our Instagram, maybe our Twitter too. We're going to try to post some content at the game, and
Try. We'll try.
we'll see you next time.